but thank you for everybody for coming back for this session after lunch here in Pretoria, and welcome to the people who are joining us via Zoom. And so this is the second webinar in a series that we're streaming live from Future Africa campus in the University of Pretoria. And in this webinar, I'm going to give, well, not me actually, our colleagues and partners are going to give an overview of the policy engagement activity that we have been undertaking in AfriCap. And this follows this morning's webinar, which hopefully many of you online were able to join us for, which focused on the foundational research and integrated modelling of climate smart agri-food systems that has formed a core part of our work. And then following this webinar this afternoon, there's then a final webinar tomorrow on the ways in which in GCRF AfriCap we've sought to build capacity for translating evidence into policy. So hopefully many of you will be able to join us for that. A quick recap. So for the people in the room, you'll have seen this already this morning, and maybe for some people who are joining us online, but just a recap for those of you who are not familiar with GCRF AfriCap. This is a 4.5-year program which we are coming sadly to the end of, and these events over these 2 days marks the conclusion of AfriCap. And in this project, we've brought together research and policy advocacy organisations across Southern Africa and in the UK. And our aim has been to build capacities for the implementation of evidence-based policy pathways for climate smart agri-food systems. So one of the key things that we have been looking at is how we get policy change that helps to address nutrition and food security questions and be responsive to the challenges of climate change in the region. We've been working in 4 focal countries: Malawi, South Africa, Tanzania, and Zambia. And this morning we saw the wealth of evidence that has been produced in AfriCap to support the countries and the region in their policy processes related to agriculture and food. The research has been led by the University of Leeds and FANAPAN and funded by the UK Research and Innovation Global Challenges Research Fund. So this afternoon, we're looking at policy engagement for agricultural transformation. AfriCap has engaged with local and national networks to share evidence and enable policy and decision makers to support climate smart and sustainable agricultural development. We started way back in 2018 with scenarios. These were visioning exercises to help us think about what the future might look like and unpack the key drivers of change in that future. We were specifically interested in those key uncertainties, the things that we know less about how they will unfold in the future, and therefore will have implications for what kinds of futures we might face. And one of those key uncertainties was identified from across all of our focal countries as climate change. But the other uncertainties varied according to country, and in Malawi, our stakeholders were particularly concerned with effective policy implementation. In South Africa, they were concerned with the effects of land reform. In Tanzania, we were concerned with technological development in agricultural production. And in Zambia, we were concerned about market access and how that might play out in the future. And that formed the basis for integrated modelling in iFeed, which many of you will have heard about this morning, and the on-the-ground research work that's been carried out in each of our countries. And we've been taking that evidence into a range of policy processes. So here, just some examples in Malawi around the National Resilience Strategy and how to embed that at district level. In South Africa, NAMC have been strongly involved in the master plan and its development. In Tanzania, we've been working with the Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance and thinking about learning at district level. And in Zambia, they've been conducting oil field studies and feeding into the national diversification strategy. All of this comes together in an overarching aim around how we can support the future proofing of policy given these identified critical uncertainties. How do we make decisions now that are win-win, that enable agriculture to be climate smart and resilient in a future where we don't know quite how things will play out? So that's enough for me as a kind of overview of that work. And what I'd like to do now is invite our country nodes and others to come up and just give us the highlights, let us know the amazing work that they've been doing in each of their countries to engage with policymakers and influence policy processes. So I don't know who would like to start. Maybe Zambia might like to start first. Christian, are you coming up to give us an overview of Zambia's work?
Good afternoon. I'm going to present the highlights of Africa work in Zambia, spearheaded by the Agricultural Consultative Forum. In the interest of time, a number of things have been highlighted, so I'll skip Yeah, so I'll skip over a number of issues. I think the objectives and thematic areas in the interest of time. Actually, in Zambia, the program Africa, as it is for 4-year program, but it's actually started in 2018, 25th September, when it was actually officially launched. But I think I'll skip off this. With the key policy engagements, specific ones which we have undertaken, we started off following the launch. We had a scenarios workshop, which was on 27th September, and this involved a wider stakeholder network from the public sector, private sector, NGO, academia, research, as well as farmer organizations. They came together, under which I think we highlighted or identified those 2 critical areas for Zambia, which have been mentioned already. Then we also had a training of media personnel from various media institutions. So this involved the print and electronic media. 14 of them were trained, and these were meant to have a cadre of journalists to be highlighting or publishing the work going on under Africa and covering any other events which we were undertaking. And so far we have had 3 journalists out of those 14 trained who produced some articles. We have had specific public sector engagements concerning predominantly our 2 key ministries, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, and also the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. In this, we have specifically engaged them and supported the work of the review of the National Agricultural Investment Program. The first NAIP actually ran from 2014 to 2018. So they're now in the process of generating the second generation NAIP. So Africa had been involved in the providing of both technical and financial support. And currently, now they have even advertised, the government has been supported by FAO and GIZ to now start the process of second generation NAIP. Much of the work of Africa has gone or will actually be a great input into the second generation NAIP. We have also engaged the government on the data collection and reporting concerning the AU CADEP Malabo biennial reporting processes. So that we have had the support, and also the nationally determined contributions. Then we have had involvement or engagement with the government concerning the diversification agenda, agricultural diversification agenda. Specifically, the ministry developed a crop diversification strategy, and Africa work had quite some good input and comments put into that document, which have been accepted. And also involvement in the development of the rice development strategy, the third one currently. We have had two so far. Now we are in the third development strategy for rice. The other engagement, which was, I think, even highlighted, was the oilseed value chain and climate impact study, which we undertook, which also has quite some research evidence, which will go into the NAIP, the second generation NAIP, and also in the overall livestock strategy. And through this study, the initial idea was we proposed to develop a soybean development strategy, more or less following the pattern of the rice development strategy. So there has been a proposal and a commitment to develop commodity-specific strategies. So we had proposed to undertake the development of the soybean strategy, but then the government amplified it to cover all the various oilseed study, and that's what we undertook. Yeah, so the government is yet to give us the feedback, formal feedback, and that will shape the next stage for the development of the soybean strategy. There had been a delay in, I think, in the response by the government towards this study. I think because of the, as you may know, we had a change of government last year. So we submitted the report during the first government. Then the new government came in, so they were trying to settle. And then, but now we have even been called to go and make an official presentation of this report. So when we go back next month, during the forthcoming livestock committee, we're going to make a presentation. In the livestock sector, we have had also engagement with the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. We have submitted a concept note on the livestock policy or strategy, as well as undertaking a livestock development conference. Then we have had various engagements with other partners. Formal engagements we have had is with the University of Zambia and the Zambia Meteorological Department. But then we have had other engagements which have not been formalized, involving various other stakeholders within the countries, both private and public. In fact, it's worth mentioning that when we undertook the oilseed value chain, we had participants. We had a team of 7 coming from different institutions. Specifically on IFEED engagements, we set up a task force which had 7 individual members coming from 5 institutions. This is from the Ministry of Agriculture, the FAO, or the Ministry of National Development Planning, specifically the National Program Coordination Unit, the International Development Agency, and the Indoor Agricultural Policy Research Institution. These are the 5 institutions from which we drew 7 members who constituted the task force, and they provided quite useful information in the IFID concerning the modeling work which was undertaken. And then in addition, we identified our champion who continue, who is currently disseminating the work and outputs under Africa, and will continue even after the end of this. And I think you hear much more from the champion is around here on what he has done and yet to do. We have had dissemination of various research work which has been done under Africa, particularly those which are related to Zambia, and there's quite a wide research. We just highlighted a few of them. These small bullets research have been circulated, disseminated to various stakeholders, both as hard copies and electronic copies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christian. What we'll do is we'll go through and do all of the highlights from all of the countries, and then we'll take questions at the end. I know that there are some questions already coming through on the chat. So maybe now we'll go to South Africa. You don't have a presentation, do you? Just go.
Good afternoon, colleagues. If I were to greet you in my language, our greeting is not time sensitive. So I have to check time before I greet you. So perhaps I should also say welcome. Welcome here. I am a node host of a FunPan in South Africa, and if I say welcome, I'm not doing an overreach. So welcome, feel comfortable and engage. Unlike Zambia, I'm not going to have a presentation because I thought if I have a presentation, I'm going to be very serious and not talk about the lived experiences of Africa in South Africa. We have a colleague from the Free State Department of Agriculture. That's where we did the work of Africa in South Africa in respect of the food systems selected. And we worked with the colleagues in a nice way. So perhaps let's, we have the colleagues from the Agriculture Research Council, Professor Sue Walker and the colleagues from the ARC. The ARC, like the NAMC, was established through an act of parliament and does research in agriculture. So let's give the colleagues a round of applause. The other part I need not to forget is the working relations we had with Professor Bill Kunin and Dr. Hemmond. The colleagues have done nice work within here, and we are very proud. Then I don't know how, but we ended up working with Andy and Stuart on IFID, and the work those colleagues did is the one that even justified the fact that we could get to present the work of AfriCAP to a number of committees in Parliament. Let's do, yeah. So for us, we chose a province that is central. We wanted to ensure that whatever we draw from the work that is done, that was done in the Free State, can be taken to the neighboring provinces. And the colleagues in the Free State did a lot of nice work. And The other part is the relationship that we have been having with FANPAN Secretariat in terms of, at times I would think the demands we were putting were too much, but the colleagues did not get bored with our requests and assisted us. One of the areas I need to identify that I think either than Africa having shaped the agriculture and agro-processing master plan that will be launched recently, we have finalized the document. The last meeting of MINMEC, which is a meeting of the minister and the provincial MECs, has okayed the document. The industry role players that we've been working with are also comfortable with issues of ensuring that we align text in the document. And if one was to ask who climate proofed the AMP, is this gathering here. And when we made those demands to Stewart and Andy, they provided all the information. When it came to us, the part that got everyone so interested in the contributions of AfriCAP was the ability to disaggregate the information to a level of, are we nutrient sufficient or deficient? Is the trade in terms of movement of the products outside and in assisting us to address the challenges to that level? That is the part of this which to me was more of a sweetener to the master plan process. The other one, which now is more into the NAMC as an institution, there is a PIVA exercise that was done. It identified two areas. One is that the NAMC as an institution is not strong in terms of its regional network. So that's one part. The second one, it identified an area which said the source of funding for the NAMC is that of government, because we are a government institution, so we get our funding through a budget vote, and said perhaps we need to look beyond that source of funding. And I feel very happy that this project funded us to start the process of developing our resource mobilization strategy. And also this project funded our colleagues to visit Zimbabwe Agriculture Marketing Authority. And I have seen that the first draft in terms of the formalized relationship between us and that institution has been shared. And perhaps I have forgotten that we also have now, because of AfriCAP, a relationship with the Namibian Agronomic Board. And for colleagues who perhaps are not close on how the situation is in the region, you would realize that there are times where the Namibian authorities, because of safeguarding their interests, will either ban the exports of live animals. If one understands the level of integration of the livestock meat value chain, one would realize that a reasonable number of winners that get finished and slaughtered in South Africa is huge. And therefore it is in the interest of us in South Africa to understand if the Namibians are thinking of that. And from the relationship, I can tell you, we even have the cell numbers of the CEO of the Namibian Agronomic Board. And if they are to take those decisions, at least they give us an indication so that we can talk to the local stakeholders. So that's, to me, That's the kind of impact. It may not be documented, but that's how far this project has assisted us beyond what it may have been designed to do. I had thought when we started we were going to have challenges because some of the work that is done by a number of stakeholders, there are at times personality clashes, but I don't know how we did it. Those things took they were put on the sides, and we focused on the work that needed to be done. Perhaps from the South African side, the one part I need to say is that it is our hope that we are not going to lose the networks we have created over this time. And it is our hope that the colleagues who started working with us, if they want information from our side, we have created a friendship that would not stop us from giving you that information. And should we require information from your side, we hope that you will be willing to share that information. I'm happy that we are doing the end of program here, because I was reminded, I tried to think, when first did I get involved in Africa, and I was reminded there is a lodge just outside town where we were called, and I think that's the first time I saw a number of colleagues here, and I may have had seen Claire in Durban when we had the Fan regional dialogue, and someone, I think the colleagues from Leeds were talking about something that was already done, but some of us at that time we did not know. But the journey has been so wonderful. And the opportunity that was even given to the South African constituencies to have had one of our own to be part of the Chatham House Fellowship. To us, those are big, and those make us feel very happy. And without wasting your time, Chairperson, I think I have said enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Okay, so we'll move on to Tanzania next.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to say briefly about the policy engagement for agriculture transformation and what has been happening in Tanzania. What I can say in Tanzania, the aspect of policy engagement, we take it very serious because research should feed into policy so that action can be taken. And with that, you can see this afternoon here, we are physically 6 of us from Tanzania, and 2 of them are from the Ministry of Agriculture. I would like to recognize Dr. Honest Nkesi, the Director for Food Security from the Ministry of Agriculture, but also I would like to recognize Dr. Makundi, who is the acting director for the Ministry of Agriculture with a portfolio of environment. Also, we have a champion of IFET, Dr. Wilfred Bungu from Sokoine University of Agriculture. But at least before I start, I would like to commend Ms. Vivian Kazi, senior researcher from ESRF, who has been the coordinator of all this work under Africa, and Agatha Kiama, who has been a focal person for the Muheza Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance in Tanzania. So we are all here this afternoon, and all the experiences that we are gathering here will feed directly. We have our people here from the ministry. So our approach for policy engagement in Tanzania actually started, it's a process from the inception phase to the implementation, and now, you know, when we are finalizing the program, but yet even after the program has been closed, we are hoping to continue the dialogue and engagement. So in Tanzania, we had a kickoff inception workshop in 2018. And with this, the Ministry of Agriculture was heavily involved in the discussion, the design, and for it to own the project. Because, you know, if you just engage them towards the end or in the middle, sometimes you can miss the engagement there. So when the project was launched, the minister himself for agriculture, by then, Mr. Charles Tizeba was there, and this is at ESRF in Dar es Salaam. But also we have worked very well with all our regional partners, because sharing of experience is very important. Like today, I was sitting in the group that we were discussing aspects on Malawi, and you could really see the way we have been able to relate and learn from each other. But also we had our local partners that we worked very closely together, the Ministry of Agriculture, but also the President's Office, regional administration, and local government, and in particular for this project, Tanga region and Manyara region, but also the Vice President Office, which is very focal for environment, and the Prime Minister's Office, but also University of Sokoine, and also Nelson Mandela Institute of Science and Technology. But also we worked very close with the Tanzania Agriculture Research Institute and other also the Tanzania Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance. So you could see from the 4 components of the project, we had all these engagement from the region and also back in Tanzania. And there's a lot of research outputs that will be coming out, or some already have started to come out. As I've said, even after we conclude tomorrow this project. So all these publications will continue to engage in different forums in Tanzania and beyond. So the program output, I can say, on Muheza Climate Smart Agriculture Alliance, this has been really to engage the people at that, at the community level. And at the end, we have managed to establish this alliance, and the registration was concluded in 2021. And so to date, there are 29 members on that alliance. So you could see this is part of the photos for those engagement. But also another part in this research, in this work, is on the research output, where we managed to have household survey in 2019 and a follow-up in 2021, whereas over 430 households were interviewed in 2019 and 2021, respectively. And then later in the follow-up, we added Manyara so that we could capture aspects of pastoralists. So overall, we look at the components of nutrition, effects of climate change, aflatoxin, post-harvest loss, gender diversity, and livestock. So many things of interest that have come up. So key issues along those key areas that should be captured, and we should continue to dialogue. But also food security, there is uncertainty in food security. There is also predominantly dependence on one crop for subsistence, which also bring the concern of mycotoxicity. And then drought and crop pest diseases were also prevalent. Low number of household keeping cow. So this also had implication in slow nutrient recycling. But also on the positive note, there was seen to be a considerable women participation in decision-making in various levels. I mean, much still needs to be done, but there are some work or progress on that. And then we had the IFED, and we have a champion here that tomorrow we'll listen more about this. But also another part of engagement in this is the capacity building process, which tomorrow also we'll listen to this, which has been very good. But now at the completion phase, what has been happening, we have been engaging at different levels. For instance, from the beginning of the year in January 31st to 6th of February, we have been engaging at the parliamentarian level. We had engagement with the Committee of Agriculture, where over 30 people were involved in these discussions. And then we had one-on-one in the regional level, different leaders at that level from the districts involved to the specific region. And these are some of the engagement from the Parliamentary Committee for the Ministry and the Ministry of Agriculture there. And then these were in one of the particular districts, so you could really see engagement has been happening at different levels. And then in March also has been a busy month. We had a subnational workshop on 21st of March, whereas ESRF, IFED champions and Africa partners from the UK and FANPAN engaged with stakeholders at the regional levels in Tanga and presented the Africa results. So all these groups now were, brought up together, and the discussions were, aggregated to all those involved. And then we had our final workshop at the national level on 23rd of March, where also we engaged stakeholders at the national level in Dodoma and also presented the Africa results. And with this, Dr. Casey was there to officiate this workshop and also presenting the ministry in this affair. So the way forward, I can say that Africa program has provided key outputs in the agriculture sector, in particular in aspects of food security and nutrition. And these issues needs now to be rolled out, informed in the policy process in Tanzania. And then the replication of climate smart agriculture learning alliances such as the Muheza is important to consider for learning on climate change mitigation and CSA's practices in Tanzania. So we have worked in Tanga region, but we think this can be adopted and shared in other parts in Tanzania as well. And then awareness on occurrence of aflatoxin. I think this is very key because from the results you could see up to 30 to 50%, food and milk even were contaminated. So I think this is really a very serious issue that needs a very immediate action. And then awareness on post-harvest loss and support to farmers on storage and facilities is also very, very important. So these are only very few issues that I've picked up, but there is more. So we feel that engagement with the Ministry of Agriculture on all these important issues are very, very important and should be a continuous process. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so last but not least, I think we have somebody from Malawi to round us off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Edwin Mutali. Like I earlier introduced myself, we are saving the best for us. One of the colleagues said, I'm the most well-dressed today, so I should announce it to the group. This is my opportunity to announce. All right, so I'll be making a short presentation, basically regarding the Africa work in Malawi. Generally, the GCRF Africa project in Malawi revolves around the following policies, or in Malawi, it revolved around 3 policies. The first one was the National Agriculture Investment Plan, which was our medium term from 2018 to 2023 investment framework for the agriculture sector. It also revolved around the Food and Nutrition Bill, which is on the way to the cabinet for approval right now. It also revolved around the National Resilience Strategy. So this is from the 2018 to 2030. Now, around those policies, there were a number of activities that we conducted, and the major ones revolved around the National Resilience Strategy. In short, we call it the NRS. So through the project, we supported the government of Malawi through the Department of Disaster Management to institutionalize the implementation of the National Resilience Strategy in Balaga district. If you may wish to know, the National Resilience Strategy has a common purpose to break the cycle of food insecurity in Malawi by bringing development and humanitarian interventions and prioritizing a continuum of more predictable livelihood support packages that target vulnerable households in Malawi. So activities that we did around the institutionalization of the National Resilience Strategy, where we reviewed the components of the National Resilience Strategy M&D framework, and then we proposed outcomes and output indicators that could be corrected at district level. So we noted that the National Resilience Strategy that was developed was quite broad, and it wasn't quite applicable on the district level. So it made it quite challenging to institutionalize the whole framework right from the district level. So our approach, we thought if maybe it could be adapted right from the grassroots and scale it up to the national level, then it would be better institutionalized. Now, we wanted to make first the M&D indicators and the M&D framework around the NRS to be toned down from the national level to be applicable on the district level. And we had a series of workshops and meetings with the Balaga District Executive Committee, who were engaging, trying to tone down the National Resilience Strategy. So this activity was done hand in hand with the National Department of Disaster Management. So we identified indicators and made them suitable for the district monitoring. And then we outlined the schedule, and then how would resource the monitoring and evaluation of the district National Resilience Strategy, and things of quality control, reporting, and use of data from district NRS M&D framework. After this, we had a national NRS review meeting And at this meeting, we had partners from different organizations that were also implementing activities related to the National Resilience Strategy in Malawi. And we are pleased to announce to say during this meeting, the model which CISANET through this project was implementing to institutionalize the NRS was adapted to be replicated for scale up of the implementation of the National Resilience Strategy in the other districts. Besides work around the National Resilience Strategy, we also, like Tanzania and other countries, had the Africa Household Survey. So we had the first one in 2019, then a follow-up in 2020, which I had the privilege to coordinate. So the survey aimed at evaluating vulnerability of households to climate change through agricultural production systems, food and nutrition security, and also the study further looked to establish household demographic characteristics, livestock systems that prevail in the target districts of Balaga and Kotagota, cropping systems, livestock systems, prevailing shocks in the communities, livestock systems, coping strategies being implemented, adaptation strategies, household well-being, issues of aflatoxin levels and awareness, and women empowerment. Furthermore, through the project, CISANET also was able to conduct a number of policy advocacy activities. We should highlight to say through the GCR Africa project, CISANET was able to conduct its 2020 CISANET Open Day event, where we basically represented issues or advocated for issues regarding policy. The major policy which was being advocated for was the Affordable Inputs Program, as well as the Food and Nutrition Bill. So then just recently we had another policy conference, one of the big and flagship events for CISANET. And I think at the event, colleague from FANAPAN also patronized. And through this, we were able also to advocate for other major issues, similar like the AIP and the seed bill, which is still hanging. FANAPAN also supported Malawi to conduct food policy dialogues. And the food policy dialogue mainly was in relation to the food. Through the same dialogue, we advocated for the Food and Nutrition Bill. And then we also had another conference, which was also supported by FANAPAN. This one basically was another National Agriculture Policy Conference, coordinated together with colleagues from MAPATA, National Planning Commission, and Luana. Besides policy advocacy activities, we also had activities like iFeed on the country level, which would be further highlighted in another presentation, I think tomorrow by my colleague. And then works around PIVA, much details about it are also in another presentation, and then capacity building. So in a nutshell, that's the work that Africa had been doing in Malawi. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. So I hope that that has given us a kind of whistle-stop tour of all of the breadth and depth of the activity that's been going on in each of our 4 focal countries. We have a few minutes, so I was wondering whether there were any questions on the chat or questions in the room that anybody wanted to raise at this point, given the discussions that we've had so far this afternoon. Stephen, was there anything in particular that came up from the chat?
Yeah, there's a general question in the chat asking if colleagues could elaborate on how the COVID pandemic affected our ability to engage with national level stakeholders in the context of those challenges.
Good question. So would any of our in-country colleagues have anything to say in particular about the effect that COVID has had on the policy engagement activities there? Any reflections or thoughts? Yes, please. begin.
Yeah, thank you very much. At least for Tanzania, we had planned to do the follow-up survey. It was, I think it was in 2021, but in March.
You try. I don't know how to switch it on.
Yeah, I just wanted to share the challenges maybe that we got from the House of Survey in Tanzania, because it was planned in January. I mean, the first quarter of 2021, but we ended up doing it in August because our colleagues from UK were not able also to travel due to some restrictions on COVID. So that's much I can say from Tanzania.
Any other?
In Zambia, basically, I think it was in 2019, we were supposed to have a number of engagements where our UK partners were supposed to come and conduct some meetings. Those meetings were cancelled because of COVID. But in another way, I think we utilized the Zoom platforms where a number of meetings were held.
South Africa, I think what COVID has done is not nice on our side. When the household survey was done, we made a promise that will come back to those funds. And unfortunately, we could not because of the situation. And I'm sure to some degree, even though the colleagues in the province did not say it outright, I think they were disappointed by some of the things that did not happen, which we had originally planned. So, in short, I think COVID, we may try to be brave, disrupted us in time. Thank you.
I think one of the things I would add to that, I think we made use of technology, and we're making use of technology today to try and continue the work and to broaden our reach, so that we still have people that are joining us remotely rather than being here in the room. So I think some of that ways of working we've made good use of. I think we were ahead of the curve because we were using Zoom right at the very beginning of AfriCap, and so I think we had a little bit of a head start in that respect. But I think also what COVID has demonstrated to us is the skill and ability of our partners, because we weren't able to travel, we weren't able to get together as much as we might have wanted to, but our partners in our focal countries have been able to continue working and to continue delivering on AfriCap with advice and discussions and cross-fertilization coming remotely rather than in person. So I would say that that's definitely been one of the lessons and the great things to come out of AfriCap, I think, is how much we have relied on and how much work and effort has gone in by our partners to still deliver even under COVID restrictions. Any other questions on the chat, or is that been? No? Okay. Right. That brings us to the end of the presentational part of this this session, and I think to the end of the webinar that we're going to be sending out live into the ether. So thank you to those who have joined us online. For those of us in the room, the next step that we're going to take, the next thing we're going to do for the next sort of 45 minutes, that will take us up till the tea break, is to get together. So we're going to do the breakout groups again. But this time we want you to break out into country groups. So we'll have a group for Malawi, for Tanzania, for Zambia, and for South Africa, and for people to get into those groups. So either that's the country that you represent, or for the others, for the country that you're interested in, to get together and just discuss some of those policy engagement activities that happened, the things that worked well, that didn't maybe work so well, what the lessons are that we can learn moving forward. So that's what we'll do for the next 45 minutes or so before tea. But I just wanted to say thank you again to those of you joining us remotely, and thank you for joining us this afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you back again tomorrow morning for the final webinar in the series from AfriCap. So thank you.